keeping all of my refineries together seems like a good idea, but having all of the inputs come in along one edge and flow through and having the outputs flow out the other edge leads to a lot of belt interlacing issues. So I think I'm going to go vertical on this. Here's my idea. I can place another deck up here, and this is actually, I don't know if this is the height of the, well, let's find out before I go any further. Is this actually the height of a blueprint? So we're going to start here, we're going to go vertical. And this is one short of the height of a blueprint. So I'm going to go blueprint height from here. And what I'm going to do is in the deck space above each one of these squares, I will place its drone port, which is just going to be easily done, and a spot in the, so the drone port will be producing material that will go down to be processed, and will be receiving stuff from the other corner, which will be, hopefully, I wonder if I can fit a drone port and a sink in one blueprint. Let's go to Blueprint Designer, take a look at this. So first off, I'm going to need a little bit of space under the deck because I'm going to be placing some through holes. So let's start off with, say, 2 spaces. And I could just literally, oops, do that. Let's see, how do I get this aligned? There we go. So here's our deck. And what I want to do is I want to service, first of all, a floor hole going down, which is going to be for the ingredients that we're pulling from the drone port I'm going to be putting on here. And I want another hole here, which is products coming back up. So the question is, can I fit a drone port and a sink in this space? Let's see. It may be that they just don't come together. And that will be all right. So the drone port, notice my actual output is far on the left. Well, I can move my down hole. I'm going to put it there, and we're going to move the down going hole over just a little bit. So this guy can't be moved any further toward that corner. So if I can fit his down hole here, there we go. Oh, and I have to get batteries for this guy, which means this is going to have a, oh boy. So distribution of batteries is difficult. Okay, so we're not going to do that. I will continue to have this. What I will do is I'm going to change the way I'm routing my materials. So they will route over this upper layer up here and get pulled down. I will call this my refinery basement. So the refinery underground, or refinery basement, will take from above in the corner somewhere. And I might as well make it match up with the refinery area. The easiest way to do that is to place my refinery let's see, can I open up another blueprint designer? This will at least make it so it's close. Load blueprint. I think these are moving around on me. Did I file this away? Don't think I did. There it is, pure copper ingots. So if this blueprint is sitting on top of that one, then let's place the through hole optimally for matching up with our inputs here. And that would be in this lower right-hand quadrant. I need to be at the 3/4 mark here and at the 3/4 mark here. And that will come down and will clip in, and it will show some of the lift. So just like that. And I'm going to pull from here. Now in actuality, the way I've got these, I should be pulling from the outboard. So, in places where I have two ingredients going across together, like over here, I will be needing the lower one first because those are the order I put it in. So instead of this guy going down, it's going to be that guy going up. As long as I'm switching up versus down, having him... Yeah, we can reorganize the materials as we go, stripe them across, make them into a bus, whatever. In which case, this really just, I'm going to take from here. So this area up top is mainly just a routing area for materials. And the coming up is at the 3/8 here and the 1/4. Well, I am not sure. Well, yeah, 3/8 would be right there. And initially I will set it to spout back toward the starting area and into a sink. So as I place these, each one will have a sink available, which I can delete if I want to, or power up if I want to. Because in most cases where I'm building just something small, I just want to sink it, get its outputs out of the way, like that. And I'm going to place a power pole somewhere that will line up with the power here. This power pole is on that junction, so it's the midpoint of the grid and the quarter point of the grid. And I think I can put a nub in the bottom for ease of that'll make it easier to hook up. So drop these on top and run their lifters down and run their power, and we should be good. So let's get rid of these plates for now. Well, I should be able to put it in place without, well, I don't want these plates to be impacting the positioning of my new blueprint, which I did not save yet. In fact, let's set up a new blueprint category. Edit, add category. And the category is called Dune Desert Blueprints. That way I can take my pure copper ingots and place them here. What else do I want in Dune Desert Blueprints? I'm not going to transform all of these. At some point I will have to go through and start deleting things and filing things away. The 18 floor hole pipes was here. The 18 pipe supports was here. The 21 and 24 were here. These 36s were a different layout. Okay, so we now have a place for our Dune Desert Blueprints. Apply changes, and now we can save this. So refinery upper deck. And I'm going to make this the sink, because the main feature of this upper deck is it has a built-in sink. And now let's see if it looks good. I'm going to start out by placing it above this copper sheet area. And I'm going to see if we just can clip onto the top. So blueprints. Oh, I didn't move it. Refinery upper deck goes here. Let's set up some subcategories. So the new subcategory is water management. Thank you, autosave. Got refinery upper deck. What happened to... Oh, there we go. Now in water management, we've got floor holes and pressurized pipes and pipe supports. Let's... There. So now if I bring up one of these, I can use my E key to move to the next one. So for instance, now if I confirm, now if I use 9 to bring up my blueprint for the refineries, E should, whoops. Okay, so I'm not sure how it picks the recipes to be placed on this wheel, but clearly it's not doing what I expected. Now the other thing I want to move to Dune Desert is the new... Where'd it go? Bulk transport, drone port batteries below. Not the drone port batteries below, but the other one. There it is. Batteries other way. This is a Dune Desert blueprint. Edit. Now DD1 battery, this is specifically for the battery area. So this is, let's rename this. This is DD2 nuclear prep. Nuclear preparation materials. Let's call this nuclear support. Since this bit that I'm working on here is all the things I need to build in order to do nuclear fuel, but not including anything radioactive. And inside nuclear support, we have a new subcategory. I switched away from it and I forgot what I was doing. So add subcategory, pipes. And now we want the refinery upper deck to also be in that same one, like that. Apply changes. So, oops. Put those on the hotbar. I could have sworn that wasn't the order I had them in. So, drone ports are on 0. And refinery is going to be on 8, and the deck is going to be on 9. Let's see if I can build a deck. So we're clipping to blueprint. I'm clipping above it. And if I set it up right, I should be able to just drop my power and my lifters right straight down. So power looks good, except it's in the middle of the smokestack. Yeah, why not? Okay, and we're not ready to route inputs yet. Oh, this one won't route outputs anyway because my input is taking from the copper ingots from the left. Unless I want to bring the copper ingots up and have the copper ingot routing do it. In which case I will need to do additional work to set that up. Might be an interesting idea, or I could just leave the internal routing down below. That's also not a hardship. So this I've already severed. So I can bring this down, point in the right direction, and I am off by 1. Oops. So the question is, am I off by 1 because of where I placed the hole, or is the whole grid off by 1? And I think when you clip the 4x4 area, I think this is, yeah, that could be lined up. In any case, if I want it to fit, I need to move this back by a little bit. Let's fix it up. So, we just need to move that over just a little bit. I wish I could, instead of picking it up and putting a new one down, just turn it into a hologram where it sits. Okay, so Save blueprint. And now we place down the new one. And I'm going to bring the lifter down first because that's the one that was wrong before. I am hearing the tick. And that does hook up. There we go. And I am going to see if I can be tidy about these things. So as I'm making these changes, when I move something like this, see if I can take care of its upstream and downstream issues and hopefully pre-work these so that there are no significant issues. So it'll just be picking up the now unused belts. Okay, with that in place, the other fun one is going to be this one on the end, which will sink. It's like it'll be exactly like this, but it'll be sinking the ingots. And I need to decide if I'm going to bring the ingots up to the upper deck and use the upper deck for all of my routing. And the more I think about that, the more I kind of like it. So let's go ahead and place these. And now we can look at this. We can say, aha. I like the clearance there. This would be my opportunity to change my blueprint, for instance, to lower it by 1. If I lower it by 1, it'll line up with these guys. I will still have the through holes, and I need to get rid of that box in the middle. Let's do that. So pretty much the same thing. We can get rid of that. So it's going to be a 1 foundation in the middle that I need to pick up afterwards. I think the easy way to do that is, instead of putting it in the middle, put a wall on the outside like that, and we will clip the foundation to that wall. So I need to have 2 of these like that. And now we can put this guy against him. So we now have a floating deck with a 1 meter high space underneath. I need to put the holes in just slightly lower than they were. Now this is the materials input. So if I were to place adjoining through holes, you see how that Z fights? So that's not a way of having a visual, let's make some through holes that kind of match up. I don't even know if you could route a belt, a lifter through there other than just clipping it through. And this is my material return. And we need to put a new sink in. Come on. And the power again is going to be too high. So we need to remove that. This power nub is just barely visible. I don't know, that might not have been a bad level for the power nub. I could have left that powered up, but it would have been really clean. Oh, well. Oh, that's going to be tricky getting that in place. We may have to put the deck down again once we do this. There. Well, it doesn't remember this is a blueprint when I place it with a blueprint, so we'll just do that. So this upper deck, I could leave it concrete. Is concrete a boring material to have up here? What other materials can I switch this to? Well, concrete takes a dye fairly well. Materials I could use otherwise, I could do asphalt, which would make it difficult for us to line things up. There's fix-it, there's grip metal. Leave it concrete. I can paint the textures on later on if I decide to do something. And save blueprint as refinery upper deck. And now we do that. So this is what the refinery upper deck now looks like. It is now at the same level as our drone port deck. So I'm going to leave this space open for now so I can move above and below, which means I probably want to ditch some of that. And now we hook it all up. Going to go ahead and route everything through the top now. That means inputs and outputs and everything. This guy is way over here. And if we have multiple levels, we'll have somebody coming up from below. So instead of going down here, I want to make a turn. Just like that. And that was wrong because the stone is going to be heading off to the next guy. So I need to actually move this over by a belt width so that the guy below can send his no, let's move it the other way. So what we're going to do is instead of going down here, I'm going to come up here. Or better yet, come up here. There. So he now goes over here, and he's going to be one lane to the left of the hood. And I'm going to clip it onto the borders of the deck, just like I was doing earlier. Now stone is going to go all the way out here. So on this one line, we're going to have copper and stone, and the copper is going to head into the first and get split and head into the second. So we need a splitter feeding him. Now the easy way to do that is to actually just put it right there. I'm going to put it one over. Like that. Which means the copper is coming up a little further. So we need to think about how our resources are routed before we route them. And could I put this off to the left? Yeah, I want to keep all of my belting toward the edges if I can. So let's do it this way. If the stone comes up along the edge, let's say we just take the stone right directly across. Whoops, not elevated. Today may be mostly faffing about with this stuff, so yeah, if you want to get on with the reactor, that might be a good time to fast forward a bit, maybe even go to the next episode. Not going to pause it because I want to record what I'm doing here and come back and look at it myself. So here would give me, well, here would give me something where I could, I think, that gives me the 90-degree bend. Yeah, that does. So now we need the up here. Well, we could put them back in kind of the same place we had them before and just have it up instead of down. I mean, not exactly the same place, but yeah, if we put it over by one, we would get a nice 90-degree bend out of this, but we're not going to do that. So why is that? Oh, did I? On the top, somehow I got a Mark 1 lift. Okay, so we got that going. We have available there. So now I break this line. Thank you, autosave. Oh, I don't believe it. Off by frickin' one on this end now. So this needs to move one to the right. Okay, check the one that was misaligned before. So from now on, when I put these holes in, I've got to hook them up before I do anything else. Splitter goes here. I mean, what if it had been wrong left to right? It would have had to rethink how I'm routing my belts. Okay, so we've got that coming in and going down. Now, I have been using very strict smart splitters so that we always fill the first before we go on. So I'm going to change this to a smart splitter. And I'm going to say to the right goes any and to the front goes overflow. So we will prioritize the first row just as these splitters all prioritize the first machines. Now we should be able to clip that in. Just like that. Second thing is, I now could make a choice. Currently we are belting from left to right, and we are bringing our water from left to right here. There's also the possibility that I could bring my water in higher, and we are still, I believe we are still under the level of the water tower. I believe we've got head lift to get up here. Let's run over to the water tower to make sure. Like I said, I'm pretty sure that we've got head lift. We could bring our water in high and then use pipe tees to let water drop down into each one. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do all of our routing above, and we're going to do everything with the vertical lifts. So all of everything in this basement should now, once we do this retrofitting, there should be no links from blueprint to blueprint on the bottom level. All of that will be routed on the top level. So if we bring water in, I want to bring it in, I guess, above the belts. I could bring it above the belts. I could tuck it in just underneath here. I don't know. Can you do water? Does water connect like that? Let's see if I just tap into here. Oh, we could bring the water in underneath the, yeah, okay, that works. That works for me. This area out here I'm reserving. I may need to put buffers in. I may need to put pumps in. We shall see. But for the moment, what I will do is have a pipe coming across here, and I will go up. And I want to have this guy on the middle. This is going to be tricky. This is in the kind of hard to describe. From the X, it's 2 clicks over and 3 clicks up. So I should be able now to route a single pipe up like that. And this will be water coming down once I get things rerouted. And yeah, that fills promptly. And the keeping of the other way we've done things, which is putting our supports on the edge of the grid. There we go. And now this needs to drop down and pick up water from down here. Make sure we're on the correct line. And that should be 4 clicks over, so half a foundation over gives me a vertical pipe. And let's pick up a pipeline with the indicator. So if we were doing pumps on the lines, instead of doing a water tower, we need a pump here, because this is going to be the high point in the water system. And I think I want to use indicators on the verticals. And that allows me to sever. I'm going to sever these because I will be supplying from above. I haven't routed things yet. Okay, so this blueprint is now only connected vertically, which I kind of like. It'll be easy to place these in. It's tempting to rebuild my top level blueprint and put the pipes in, but then that would be at the wrong height because the pipes are too tall. So we're just going to have to place the pipes by hand. So again, this was 3 clicks in and 2 to the left of this guy. One, two, three, 1, 2. Notice it picked up the green line from the left, which I hadn't counted on. Two, three, 1, 2. I never know whether the guidelines are going to appear or not. Okay, now before we start running the horizontal lines, I'm going to just say boom, boom. So I need to be careful placing the crossing at the top, but once I've done that, the verticals just drop right in. And I'll use indicators on these guys. That also means that in these cases where we have many pipes, we just have to watch that the many pipes don't overlap this. Maybe we'll place them down the middle or something. I was going to explicitly make a stopping point here. Okay, so these blueprints, because I am dealing with interactions between things that are farther away, I'm not really gaining as much benefit as I would like, but the blueprints are still meaning that I don't need to work out a lot of the stuff every time. There we go. So the water is racing through here. It will preferentially fill these guys. This will also have the benefit that when one set of 3 of these guys triggers, it won't be draining other sets of 3. So there'll be no backflow. There's still backflow within the groups of 3. I didn't take this down. Downside is that I am not getting a lot of water out here because we are, what, filling everything? He's full, he's full, he's full. He looks full. Okay, so this guy is pumping water just as fast as he can. So we're filling the system still. Patience. So notice that this was doing a fairly large fill rate while it was staying pretty empty. Full pipes flow better. Which is why typically when I build, I should be hooking up the water and turning on the machines in an order that allows them to fill up their water first and then let the ore in so they can start actually building. What's really best is if everything could fill up, which you can only do by, I guess, stopping their outputs, and that takes a while to finish that up. I guess we just have to stay patient. Okay, so the water system is set. Now remember that this area in the middle will be decked. So it's going to be okay to have our materials flowing over that line. So these copper are coming from here. So this guy needs to split twice. Once to right versus forward, and then once for down versus across. We are going to end up with copper heading off this direction. And the one in the middle is going to be different because he is getting ores. So this belt merges with this belt, splits into here, goes back out here, merges him, and merges with him to go to the sink. So let's think about, let's route that first. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. It turns out I'm actually just lifting up all of these sinks. So this guy, this is the only place we're getting copper sheets, so he's good to leave here. I'm going to merge this outboard like that. We're going to arrange this as if they were going straight through. Don't know why I put the sinks up here if I'm just deleting them. I needed to move that sink because I'm going to be doing merger stuff on it. So now we merge in him. Now we would normally just merge him in, but in this case I am going to be bringing my materials in and merging here. That's not going to work. We are not outboard enough for that to work properly. Let's do it inboard. So now when we get to here, why do I have a splitter in my hand? Conveyor merger, so he will merge like that. That works. So normally he would head straight across, but because we have a different machine in the middle, he won't. And this will head into a sink. So now, instead of this guy hooking directly up to this guy, we've put this copper sheet blueprint in the middle. So we need to route these so that we split to here and then bring ourselves back over here. And we're going to leave plenty of room for routing our ore inputs. What would be the easiest way? Well, let's... I want easy, but I also want it looking fairly good. So let's see if I do a 90-degree bend. And this line is clear of the machine. And we were bringing it in just like that. So we're going to bring it through and around. Like that. And then back to our grid edge and onward. And I need to tap from here to put something in there. So we're going to put a splitter here. Oh, won't it be nice if we get some nice 90-degree edges? Yes, it is. And we can get rid of that little supporter there. Now, I could have brought this up close enough so that the merger was on top of the downlink. I want to still have the ore coming through here. So it would have to be off to the left, which would mean we would probably be clipping against the power pole. So I am going to leave it where it is. Just like that. Okay, now the ore. And another autosave. Thank you, autosave. Biffa has his autosave cup of tea. I've got my autosave glug some coffee. So our splitters are going to be lined up about like that. So here, we're still programmed for NE to the right, overflow straight on, and this guy is going to be NE to the left. In fact, I could just use that plan for all these guys, knowing that straight on is my overflow, and it'll just work. We snake one belt in the middle there, between the splitters. And in fact, this guy is wrong. He needs to, yeah, he's correct. So he will prioritize sending down. And let's just drop those in. Yeah, I'm off by one. No, I'm not. I guess, oh, that's from the blueprint where we had the wrong down location. See? So I forgot that I needed to correct this. I didn't correct it on the blueprint. He needs to head over by one. And so does this guy. So I blew it again. I didn't run my lifters down to the clip-in point before committing to other things. Let's do that. We're right up next to the pipe. I think that's good. Prune this out of here as we go. That's going to go up in a moment. He comes down and I hear the tick. We can put this in place here. And the other one that goes away is this guy. So he has this hooked up, but he doesn't have the nubbin below hooked up. I also, oh, I can sever the power below and run the power. So I did have one more connection between my blueprints down below, and that was for power. So the blueprints will be getting their power from above. Now I was using power switches. And I did not have the copper sheets on a separate switch. That's good. So the question is, do I want to continue to section this factory off and have power switches, or do I want to just admit that I'm going to grid the power on the top level and that'll be that? I think I'm just going to grid the power on the top level. And I think that instead of having these long wires on top, I'm going to connect them up via their power connections down below, which are a little hard to get to. So the power connections below will connect left, right, and up and down. And then I connect from one of these. Is going to have to go to a master power input. Let's get that set. Oh, that's interesting. He doesn't want to clip onto the edge here. So let's go to normal default connection. There we go. So that deck is set. And I can temporarily, I'm just going to put a power line here so I can pick it up and put it below and connect it back. So now I have a nice under deck power grid. And this is not quite in the right place. So let's see. This little Mark 1 power pole is where we're coming up from power below, but here's our power distribution point. And I want that to line up perfectly. Easy way to do that is to grab a wall and zoop it up. So my current power point is right here. I need to do one that's one tick down and 2 ticks over. One tick, 1, 2 over to here. And there's our power distribution point. Now with that in place, oh, I can't turn this off yet because I haven't done the next set, but what I can do is get rid of these power lines that are connecting between the blueprints. What I'm hoping is that with today's refactoring, things will be a little cleaner. Let's not get rid of this yet because he doesn't have another source for his power. Oh, come on. There. Everybody's still, oh. We got red because I haven't run the power down yet. This is why you get all this stuff worked out before you make it part of the critical path of your system. So for instance, if we were currently feeding the nuclear power plant and we were trying to adjust things, I would need to be very careful to maintain power as I'm moving the grid around. And now we don't need these lines anymore. So once we have this laid out, once we've gotten to the point where we're sure this area is going to change, I can remove any of these poles that have nothing connected to them if I want. But see, that is cleaning up nicely. We're going to end up with nice belt routing up above and all the machines down below with their internal routing and all of their inputs and outputs drawn vertically all the way up to here. Fluids underneath the deck mean that we aren't going to be having to cross our fluids and our solids all over the place. So let's get our splitters going now. Splitter there, no splitter there, splitter there, and splitter there. So I should have been able to change the direction on that, and that's because I hadn't actually done the downlink yet from there. So that's on me. I keep making rules for myself and not following them. Hold on. Is that right? Wait a minute. How badly did I just mess up? Okay, so I've got one copper ore coming in, feeding these two guys, and a separate copper ore coming in, feeding these guys. Right, that's how that worked. So we're still going to need, oops, I didn't need to take that out. We're still going to need this guy here. But it means I have a copper line coming from here going across this way, which conflicts with this iron, the copper ingots going left to right here. So it sounds to me like what I need to do is, well, that line's not straight. Okay, we're going to reroute the ingots here. I'm going to work out a better way of doing this. So these ingots coming across here from, that are crossing the copper sheet machine, they are going to have to be arranged so that a copper ore line can cross them heading east. Any way I do this, things get ugly. Well, let's set up this part of the build symmetric with the first part. He's coming up there. And I decided to put it in alongside the old hole. Just like that. First guy prioritizes to the right. Actually, we could use, yeah, that plan is good for anybody that's prioritizing to turn and overflow goes straight, which is all of these. And yes, I know this one is overkill. I could just send it straight in, of course, of course. Remember, I am not subjecting myself to any resource requirements here. Someday I may do a playthrough where I don't have any of the advanced options turned on, and that's when I will worry about keeping my cost of my capital goods down. So I need to bring the copper up rather than send it down. So now that I've severed that, I can clean up this belt. And that's the belt that heads in here, which will come down from above. So I think I'm going to think in terms of prioritization of raw materials flowing into the grid, which means that I will be elevating my outgoing materials. And if I move this sink, I will be able to just stripe it across. The sinks I consider to be temporary. So he will actually come in long run as a 2, 3, 4. I will lift him up significantly, and then he's going to head off to wherever we're going, which means that this guy. Well, I don't know how high I'm going to lift him. But I do know that I want these copper ingots to match up with these copper ingots. I'm going to do a quick check and see where this copper ingot is used, see if I can run it as 2 belts. So I am looking in my original plans for nuclear power. nuclearpowerinstructions.org. So, copper routing. This is way too big to put up on the screen, but I do have copper ingots, a very small quantity going to my bauxite outpost, and wow, according to this, I've got 1,330 per minute going to the Caterium outpost. Let me bring up my window again and verify this real quick. So, copper outpost. I may have messed up something. Net products per minute of the copper outpost are 1,402 copper ingots output. That's 2 belts. That's 2 belts after the sheet. So, there we go. So here's what it looks like. Look at it, overview. I have the top decks here. We've got the ores that are flowing in, splitting and going down, splitting and going down. We have our ingots coming back, merging, and I am sending, mostly I'm sending off to the left, so that will eventually join up with the rest of the ingots for that one belt. I'm going to do this pair and this pair together, so we will have the half of the ingots that are going to the Caterium area. Caterium takes a ton of ingots. The other side, also set to merge, it's going to split off here. Now, if I just take 4 of these blueprints and merge them together, that's 900. That doesn't fit on a belt. So I do have to go put 2 of them together, split out for the sheets, and then put 2 of them together again. And still doing tidy as you go on this. But I think that's got the first row. Let's work on the second row now. I guess I can put the decks back in here too. Now these decks are aligned with the drone port grid, and you'll see how this is not quite set up because the drone port grid comes down based on where the drone port falls. And I offset it so that that would place the belts between the main grids. Not so important anymore now that I've got this going, and maybe someday I will pick up all of my drone ports and reorganize them, but I will have to reorganize them and reprogram everything, so let's leave it there for now. Besides, it still lines up neatly with where I want to be. So now I need to work on the next units up. Tight as you go. Can we put one more out here? Yes. And I'm going to put a grip strip on the edge there. Because I offset the drone ports, we're going to have some irregularities in this area somewhere where we have to match up. Might as well do it there. So double wide grip strip coming down here. Wish there was something I could do about that edge. Really do. The only thing that comes to mind is leaving a gap somewhere. Or just swallowing my pride and taking up all of the drone ports. I'm not doing that today. Okay, so the next one is we still have our decks, and our decks still have some of the stuff in the wrong place. And I really should fix that. So this should be the same as this, with the exception that I don't need to send copper on. I will, however, make it exactly the same layout. So we start off with our horizontal smart splitters. Do these one at a time. So before I actually hook up anything more, let's make sure this is actually in the right place. And it is not. Look at that. So the first thing is that the input needs to be moved one to the right. Let's fix that in the blueprint, because I'm going to be placing this a few more times. I can't believe I got this wrong. Now if I put this guy in here, it means when I place the downlift, it'll be pointed the right direction. And let's check the other hole. I may have gotten both of them wrong. That one's correct. Okay. Test it by actually placing the blueprint itself. Oh, got to hit save. That's right. So save blueprint. So refinery up and deck is now fixed. Place it and establish vertical connections first, which serves as a verification. We have power. We have inputs. And we have outputs. Now for power, we do want to continue this scheme over here. Come on, why can't I pick this up? It's only got one connection out of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One grid forward, one deck forward, and place his undernub. All of my connections are via the undernubs. I can have the pole on top, which I can get rid of, but I don't want to see power lines. Not going long distance. I can see power lines going from the power pole to where it's used, but I don't want to see power lines heading off into the sunset. Okay, power's hooked up. Our vertical connections are hooked up. Our machines should now have power, and they're going to shortly run out of everything else. Let's route the liquids, since I identified that as being slightly more difficult. So our X's again, from the midpoint, it was 3 to the left and 2 in. Okay, and we actually have a lineup point there. That's convenient. So if I did that right, we should be able to just plop a vertical in here, and that should be absolutely vertical if I did it to the right place. And that looks good enough to me. So that line I wanted to be an indicator line, and the indicator line coming out to our support point. Another indicator line going down, and that pipeline goes boom. That doesn't look right. I am off by 1. I needed to be to the left by 1 from there. So let's put our wall support in place while we're looking at it. So the cross goes there, but over by 1. Yeah, these long runs, it's hard to tell when you're precisely vertical until you get some distance. How do we look now? Better? Better. And this guy hits down to here, and across to here. And we now have our water hooked up to the top. Filling. So we should be filling at 10 cubic meters per second. And we now have water routed in. Now we're going to need to get copper from above, not from here. Let's clean this up. This belt is empty, so it's going to go away. I believe this is our stone belt for our limestone area. Thank you, autosave. I'm going to pause the recording while we do more of this. So while I'm working on this, it does strike me that I had an opportunity to do something that might have been interesting. Instead of making this solid, I keep having to go around and through. I could have equally put a frame foundation here, which still forms a nice place to put things. Well, sometimes it's a little difficult, so maybe that isn't a good idea. But it means that I would now be able to go up and down. So I think once I get things in place, I can replace these with some frames. So I get things in place on the top, put in the frames, and then that gets me the ability to go down through. I may have to go back and forth a few times manually. Yeah, okay. Well, I still have to go back and forth manually. But using frames to allow me to go vertically through my deck is going to be a tool I have to use during building. Which means that when I later come by and remove the deck blueprint, it's not going to remove these pieces. Even if I replace them with concrete, they're still not part of the deck. And I need concrete here for placing the smart splitter, I believe. So I think the smart, well, wait a minute. I can place it like here and push it into place with nudge. So yeah, I could have made 2 of the rows from the deck or at least the first row of the deck. I could make the first row of the deck this grid. I'm going to do that. So I meant to be on pause there. I went on mute and reached to hit the pause key, and apparently you just saw me placing all those out there. If I come through later and start removing my upper deck blueprints, it means we'll end up with the frame still sitting there. That's not a problem. It means as I'm placing these things on the frame, I need to place them somewhere they have support and then nudge them into place. That's not a problem. But it also means that when I place the blueprint, I will be able to immediately, first of all, I'll be able to see what's going on with my inputs. I will be able to go over here and still see what's going on with my outputs. And I will be able to move vertically through the deck. So, back to making this work, and I'm going to go on pause this time, honestly. Okay, so there we have the first major copper line here. I wish I could see what rate we were going through there. So we have our two outputs here. We are splitting off. That's the wrong way around. I need to prioritize sending to the sheets, and these guys need to be the other way, just for this one. So copper comes in, it will prioritize going to the sheets. And I think there's something wrong with my production down below. Let's make sure we have power. I don't see copper moving, so there's something wrong with these guys over here. He is idle because his output is full. His output is full because I didn't run the vertical. There. There we go. So now I should have a whole bunch of ingots heading off to the sheets for a while, and once the sheets are backed up and running, now we should start getting our contribution to the main line. And these guys all built up a full stock, so I'm going to simplify things by, oh, not that much built up. I guess they've already almost drained. Yeah, okay, so we're good. So we merge those two together, we merge it with this, we send it up here, and if everything is flowing properly, including this guy's prioritizing to the sheets, eventually we should get our proper fraction of copper ingots, which will be going over this belt, which will continue to bug me until it gets routed to whoever wants it. In this case, I think that's quick wire, but putting it like this makes it absolutely sure that I won't miss it. Right? Right. Okay. So this deck that I've placed down needs to get its ingots from the other side, and it needs to do so in a way that doesn't conflict too badly with getting the copper ore through this way. I think we are forced to make them cross. But that's all right. This guy can be brought up. How high do I want to bring this? I want to bring it high enough that we can do a natural lifter on the other side. So before we go too much further, let's put our vertical connections in for the second build area for copper sheets. And that's reversed. Okay, so putting in that lift like I did there, it didn't maintain the directionality. So once again, I'm going to try to remind myself to do my vertical connections between the upper and lower deck first. We are not passing along our ingots. Sorry, guys. Those go up above, and this goes away. Tidy as you go. This goes away. This goes away. And now we bring down our lifter from here. So vertical connections are now in place. We don't have power because I haven't yet done the horizontal connection. So that's next. Where'd it go? Oh, that's right. The power nub is harder for me to see slightly because now it's out over here. But from the proper vantage point, it's easier to touch. So now we have power. And that should be powering these guys. They don't have ingots yet. I haven't routed it. So the ingots are currently over here. And they're going to be splitting to head to him and then merging with the outputs from the last two. I'm going to go ahead and place the last two decks in. Not officially starting on them quite yet. Oh, and this frame area out front makes it even easier to orient my grids. Our sinks go away. Oh, I should have left lifters in place to set the direction. Oh well. So these ingots need to go to a splitter somewhere, which sends stuff to here. At the same time, I need to have my copper. Let's route the copper to the new guys first. Okay, we're doing the new guys. Vertical connections and power. If I do power first, I can do it on the way through. And thank you, autosave, and I'm going to pause this while I hook all this stuff up. Okay, so the second set of copper ingot refinery areas, which is 4 blueprints, I've routed them up, and I noticed something. My original plan was to take these two, merge them together, and then split off. And it turns out, I looked at the math, and the routing here is easier if I take one blueprint and I priority route its output out to the steamed copper sheets. That's because it produces 225 a minute and steamed copper sheets needs 180. So just this one guy can feed him. We take his output, we merge it with this, we merge it with that, we merge it with that, and sync it. And maybe these could be smaller, I don't know. But this works out. So that gets me my second major belt of copper ingots, and it gets me my sheets going. I think I do want to merge the two sheets here, so I will pull this stuff up. So my copper flyover really is a flyover. And let's see, merger. We're going to merge this and we're going to head it north. I don't know long run where that goes. In the short run, we are, of course, going to bend it around into the sink in the ugly way that will assure that I don't forget later. And there we go. So we are sinking a belt of ingots, we're sinking a fraction of a belt of sheets, and we're sinking another nearly full belt of ingots over here. So that finishes our copper rework. And I am going to split the recording here and continue with the rework on this next row, which is my stone and my silica and my iron. I just put the iron down, so this is a good time to rework it. And here we see, this is the reason why I wanted to do this. Because we had all of this stuff coming up, and either I had to continue to lace my outputs heading east, getting higher and higher, and having to work out, getting the outputs from below, putting up on top, and getting the inputs down. Or I could send it off, as we see, I've got it here toward the south, where it just builds up this big massive vertical bus heading off to the south that gets taller and taller and taller and taller. And if I do this, it makes it even harder to bring things in. So instead, I'm going to bring them up to an upper deck where I've got all of this space to work with. Now, instead of breaking the recording, I will continue my rework on this recording. I will just do a pause here while I put everything in place. My plan is to put all of the upper deck areas in place, then to run power and water. Oh, I've revised the water a little bit. Because the water is running underneath this grid work, I think that putting a support for the water at the edges of the foundations, edges of the thing here, I think that's a little too often, so I'm going to let the pipelines just flow from crossing to crossing. So we'll see about here, we'll see our indicator. Kind of buries the indicators a little bit behind the mergers and such, but you can still catch glimpses of them and come down and look at them if you want to. So yeah, I will stripe the blueprints across the top, set up the water grid and the power grid, do my verticals, and then lash up the top, and this shouldn't be too long, but I'm going to do it on pause because it's the same thing that I've been doing here, and the top work will be very visible anyway, so I'm not too worried about that. So back to pause. And I just showed you all that stuff with my Emacs window showing there. So to review again, I'm going to put in the last bit of layering here. So I'll put in the top deck. And as I was saying, the water, power, the verticals, and then we'll start lacing up the top. And at some point I will unpause the recording and we'll see how it all comes together. Okay, this recording's already too long, but I'm going to finish up the last of this refactoring. So when I go to the next recording, it'll be building something new, because early in the recording I said, skip to the next one if you want to see something new. So I placed all of the upper decks here. I set up all the verticals. I have routed the power. I have routed the water. I have not routed any of the belts. So now's the time to look at the belts. Notice that when I cleaned up for this, I removed all of the bits of routing of the old ore that we aren't going to use anymore, and did my best to clean up the lower deck area. So we're going to start off here on this end. These first machines, I believe, are for concrete. Yes, and this is going to require 720 limestone per minute, which is almost a full belt. So it's coming down here. And that's over here. And I did set it up a little bit close. I am willing to accept that bit of clipping. And I believe I can bring it to here. And that's too far. Let's do this the other way. He's coming right down the edge where we classically, well, previously had done it in this build with the copper just inboard. Now, if everything is correctly set up in the blueprints, after just putting it in place, setting up the verticals, running the water and the power, we're now getting concrete out the top. And under the hood, it has filled the first machine, it's filling the second. Now these are taking at a very high rate, so even though I've filled the first machine, he's still taking big chunks out of my input. He's taking like almost a third of it. So the second guy takes longer to fill up, and when he fills up, he passes to the third. And what's going to the third is, you know, just barely more than he can eat. So this is going to go up very slowly. But at this point, he's reached steady state. And each cycle, this is going to go up by just a little bit. So concrete is running. Okay, or should I say, concrete is once again running. Let's toss ore-like things out of my inventory. I don't need to keep those. And the next one, I believe the next is rubber. Yes, and I need polymer resin coming in, and it's 240. So this one should fill fast. And he's coming in along here. So originally what I was going to do was to elevate my output products. And what I'm seeing here is that I actually need to elevate are the things I add later. So he is going to run elevated all the way down. And I'm going to put him up 2 ticks. And then I'm going to run stackable conveyor poles. Actually, I don't even need to do that for this level. I can just grab him, and I'm going to run to the edge of the grid points to do this. Oh, that's going to be a hard one. Can I... Yes, I can hologram that. and then move him up. So good job on the holograms, guys. I just wish I could hologram things that are already in place. And we get to the edge here. And I'm just going to do that with the belt. Not really pretty. How about I go from here around to here and intercept this halfway up. Oh, better yet, how about I go from here out to here and raise myself up to, yeah. Okay, it's not the way I normally run things, but good enough. So I will set a consistent thing of moving myself right or left, coming out of the drone port, and then adjusting my level, and then sending it across. So we can see down in there, we can see he's already filled up the first machine, filling the second. And we can see that we have already used up the, well, no, the big chunks out of the middle are because we are actively running that refinery. And now everybody's running, and we should be producing 40 rubber per minute, which is just going to be drips and drabs on the belt. And there they are. There is an add-on I want to turn on once this build goes live, which is the little display that measures how much of something is actually flowing over a belt. And I can use that during my startup process. I seem to remember that leaving those all over the place was potentially a drain on my ability, a drain on my FPS, actually drained the CPU. I could have been wrong when I measured that, but may or may not leave the display going. But we'll see what happens once this gets to be EA instead of experimental. Thank you, autosave. So the next step are the iron, and there's going to be 4 belts, one from each of these guys, coming all the way across, zoop zoop all the way down, and I'm thinking that because I am elevating these I can run it at the same level of these guys, and it will be lower than this belt here, so it'll go between them. Fine. And we're just going to do them all at once. So we go up 2 ticks. And I'm going to set the first one up on each one. Just like that. And then we're going to line sight of them. And that clips. Darn it. So I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll run this out here, and then I will jog it over to the right and across. Do I want to run it along this row? This would put it right on the border line here. It would sneak under here. Yeah, let's do that. Let's bring it across so it's actually going down this line. So we want to be on here, so we rotate that and we bring it back in here, just like that. So we'll now be elevated at the proper mark here. That's going to nestle into the top of those splitters and mergers. and right across. Make sure that works for the rest of them too. So we're talking about going down this line. That's good. And this line, that looks good. And where did we go? This line. And that looks good. Okay. So I decided to do my left and rights at that end, and immediately I'm doing them at the other end. So yeah, I need to start saying, instead of I'll do it this way, it says I will think about it doing this way, and then that way I can say, well, I thought about it and I decided not to. And taking the opportunity to do that. I think when I get here, I'm going to go up the 1. And I will go ahead and pump it up. So either I can do it this way, or I can run it horizontally and try to make it nest in like that. I think I'm going to see if I can make it come in. Does that match? Hey, that's pretty good. Okay, let's set the rest of these up doing that same thing, and I'm going to do that here as well. There it is. This guy is now going to come out to here. Now, think about this. Do I want to bring this out at this level since I'm doing it that way on the other ones? Yes, I think I do. So let's start from this end. From here, we are going to come to the edge of that. And again, I am going to go back to my support on every deck area, because this is all kind of weaving together now. Two. I probably could have made that all one. So the rest of this recording is just going to be me finishing up these last couple of belts, which I'm almost done with. And then we're going to pause while everything stabilizes. That will give that 10 minutes. And we're going to come back and we're going to check all of the end points to make sure that we actually have full throughput everywhere. And then I can start on the next part. So the part that I was worried about and decided that would be okay was in here. And yes, our ore is coming through halfway between the copper ore and the copper ingots. And nestling into the side of the splitters looks okay. And these guys nestling between them, that looks okay. And now we just need to wait for our throughput to stabilize, and I will come back and we will take a couple of minutes to look at all of the final machines to make sure we are actually running at 100%. Little bit of footage of the final form of this section of the factory to, well, I hope it's the final form, to give a sense of what's going on here. I wandered around. I found a few places where in cleaning up the factory, I deleted some lifters, put those back in place, so some of the refineries which couldn't run because they had no inputs or couldn't run because they had no place to put their output are now running. Wandered around, cleaned it up a little bit, placed down my little upper deck area that has the framework along one edge. So we now have, you can see now it's consistent, and we can run across the top and drop down through the holes very easily. This is actually the screenshot view. Go back to normal. And now we check our performance. The machines that are on this end are lowest priority for input resources and highest priority for output. So we want to check that they're running at 100%. And as long as they're running at 100%, we're good. And so far, these guys are looking pretty good. I'm not too worried about the output priority because I can glance down there and see that the output belt is not saturated. Copper ingots. That's looking good. More ingots looking good. Sheets looking good. Ingots looking good. And so on and so forth. So basically everybody is now running at 100%. Our water is nice and calm because we have finished debugging enough. We've debugged the problems of the water that showed up when I was taking from those 5 pipes. So these guys are now spinning water through. They're full. They're running water at the appropriate rates, which for some of them is 600 and for some of them is slightly less. There's one that I'm taking about half a pipe on. So I didn't actually have to put in any buffers or anything fancy. And we are still lower than our water tower, which is that guy right there. So as long as we are lower than the bottom of that tank, we should have full head lift. If we want to go any higher, we can either do the head lift on this end, or I can go over there and raise the water tower. And that view showed me that I hadn't finished buttoning it up after the last time I edited. So I have procrastinated as far as I can, and I guess our next thing to do is to open up my plan and find the next set of refineries to put out. I am going to do all of the refineries first, and then we'll see what comes next. Each one of these sinks represents an output from the ground floor up to the upper deck, and they will have to get routed to whoever is using them. If the routing up here becomes too squirrely, I can always put in more drone ports. But if I do that, I have to run batteries around everywhere. So I'll only do that if the routing is more squirrely than the routing that I would get by running batteries. And running batteries around everywhere is kind of a pain. So for instance, I would end up moving those 4 drone ports somewhere over here, probably above this top deck. Ditto these 2, and then there's 2 that are below on the lower deck that I would pull up. But the trick there is to get the batteries cleanly routed, because they go back and forth underneath the drone ports. Yeah, that's kind of... I may still end up eventually with a very, very high top deck, which is all input drone ports and output drone ports, and who knows. But that's something we can do later. We can do that as a retrofit even, because each one of these drone ports is feeding into a lift, or in some cases it's feeding into splitters that feed into lifts. So yeah, we could do that later. So I'm going to call this a recording, and I'm going to pull up plans and see what refineries are next, and then I will record when I'm ready to start building the next one.